Good morning, good afternoon. Thanks for everybody for attending the DataON Virtual Academy webinar. We've been doing this for now 5 weeks in a row and continue to deliver information and content to our audience and our customer on the latest technology. Today, it's a very unique opportunity for me to bring my good friend Jake Smith from Intel here, so we can have a conversation. Really today, the goal is not to go through all the slides, but we'll have some new information to share with you on technology. So topic today is Microsoft Azure Stack HCI, all the new Intel technology, and how it's really being applied in a real world scenario with real customers. So in our conversation today, you will see discussion around our experience engaging with the customer and how they leverage the technology building blocks that we've been really working closely with Intel to build Microsoft Azure Stack HCI. And so what are the challenges and benefits they face as they deploy the solution? So hopefully the goal today is for our audience and our customer to learn about these solutions and some of the challenges and how it applies to you in the real world scenario. As usual, our goal is to have a real conversation. So if you have questions, feel free to post it on the chat window, and we'll answer these questions. And questions are welcome, definitely. Today's format is more interaction and discussion, so I would love more questions from you. And I'll let Jake introduce himself real quick. Jake, please do a quick introduction.
Howard, well, first of all, thank you for having me this week. It's such an honor to be here. My name is Jake Smith, Director of Data Center Technologies for Intel's Data Center Platforms Group.
Great. So today, some housekeeping item. We do have both me and Jake are pretty active on Twitter, so if you want to reach us, you can reach us on Twitter. And please keep muted during the webinar so we can have a productive conversation. I want to start off with Jake, which really talking about Intel. You know, Intel is the foundational building block for DataON Azure Stack HCI solution. Whether or not is our server architecture, whether or not is our compute, our storage, our NVMe, our SSD, reality is the entire building block is actually made by Intel, and DataON is the vendor that put it all together and really do the certification, qualification, ready for Microsoft Azure Stack HCI, and deliver that complete turnkey experience for our enterprise customer. But continuously, Intel comes out with new technology and capability, and clearly, Intel had an announcement earlier this month on their second generation processor, and I wanted Jake to take this chance to kind of describe to you the capability and why this new processor is really good for our solution. Go ahead, Jake.
Well, Howard, you know, as a partner, as a former Intel employee, you know, we've had a long working relationship at a personal level, but at a professional level, this is really the second generation of the Xeon Scalable processor family, and in fact, it's a refresh of that second generation, and is formerly known as Cascade Lake R. But the real opportunity that we see is the value and the performance that it brings to customers from a TCO perspective. Because of our co-development efforts relative to select solutions in Azure Stack, you guys have been able to take advantage of 2 new Intel Xeons that actually can deliver up to 4.5 gigahertz of performance with Intel Turbo Boost technology, along with the 3.9 gigahertz base frequency. So it's magical for me to even say that because we're really starting to push the 5 gigahertz limit, and as you know, Howard, we've already released 5 gigahertz at our desktop processor level. So this is what's to come. We continue to show high performance innovation on the frequency level. We're introducing new built-in technologies like Turbo Boost, optimized virtualization technologies for HCI that helps us deliver shielded VMs with Azure Stack HCI, as well as new capabilities at the lower end of the product line for your Robo product line as part of the Kepler product line. So providing you the flexibility as a designer of solutions for your customers, like Bradley Law Firm, to build solutions that scale up to high core count, high socket count, as well as solutions that scale wide with maybe not as many sockets, but certainly higher core counts and high performance to deliver edge applications. So we're really excited about this second generation of Intel Xeon Scalable processors, and as importantly, we're as excited about the innovation that DataON and Microsoft are driving together. And I think you guys have a future podcast to actually discuss the Microsoft relationship as well. So it's really, again, it's really an honor to be here. It's really exciting to have just recently released our second generation Intel Xeon Scalable processors. The 11th generation, by the way, in the family, in the core microarchitecture family.
11th generation. I think when I was at Intel, let me think. When we first introduced Xeon, that's like 4th generation. My gosh, so it's been 7th generation since I left Intel. Well, it's been a lot of innovation. And the funny part is, I'm not really a geeky kind of person, but I know I talk to customers a lot, and sometimes people think, hey, Intel continue to innovate on the microprocessor technology, and does it really bring value to the customer? And I can attest to it. When we talk to customer about compute as an element of our Azure Stack HCI design, this discussion actually happens quite a bit. Why? Because compute influences the performance and latency of the workloads. Compute number of cores applies to how the workload operates. So believe it or not, CPU capability actually impacts tremendously how we design our solution for the Azure Stack HCI. Can you talk about, as you guys continue to innovate along the CPU line, how do you guys balance between core and megahertz, which is a key criteria in your design? Hey, Jake, are you there? Huh. Maybe you're muted. But I think it's important to understand that, in the design of a compute, for Microsoft specifically, number of VM actually matters in terms of virtualization and Hyper-V VM level processing. So number of core matter how much virtual server you could support and resources you could support as well. And having the right processor, the right type of solution actually is a very, very key design criteria as we continue to move forward in Azure Stack design. Do you agree, Jake? All right, let's continue this. As one of the discussion topic, as we talked about the compute aspect of our process, I think it's important to also understand that Azure Stack HCI continue to show that it is a proven technology. For those who hasn't attended the webinar in the past, I want to continue to emphasize that, hey, Microsoft Azure Stack HCI is absolutely a mainstream solution and product in the marketplace. Not only has it been recognized by Gartner as a visionary only 2 years since launching Azure Stack HCI and HCI family, it's also been recognized by many other notable media outlets. For example, last year they won the Storage Review Award for the Best Editor Choice Award. So these are accolades that shows that, hey, as a solution, as a product from Microsoft, even though you don't hear about it, is really a best-of-breed product in the marketplace, and many of our customers continue to leverage it and to help them refresh in their data center. One aspect, as we bring back to why these processor refresh is very critical in the design of Azure Stack HCI, I think it's important to understand, hypercompute building block, these are the design criteria that we use. And Microsoft Azure Stack HCI is the leading platform that allows you to take advantage of all the new leading-edge x86 innovations. Innovation that allows you to take advantage of the core count CPUs, the PCI Express lanes, right? And you'll see that in our design, we always leverage the latest technology in terms of processor. We're using a second generation Xeon processor scalable today. We'll be leveraging the Cascade Lake Refresh R to see which of these innovation help our customer across the board. But in addition to compute, it also is important to understand that the other components that we take advantage in our building block. Optane SSD for cache is an innovation we totally take advantage of, and Intel is the leading vendor there as well. Leveraging the right network card, RDMA, to offload the CPUs. Having a NVMe device that is the best solution out there for performance for IOP. It's allow us to design a solution that is really the leading edge performance, getting millions of IOPS. But more importantly, persistent memory, right? Having a building block, a CPU, a compute, a platform that supports persistent memory as well allows you to have that storage or performance closer to the CPU is very important in terms of SQL applications, VDI applications. So these innovations across the board as a foundational building block is what we drive to make sure that our solution based on the Intel platform is a leading edge solution.
Well, and Howard, I apologize. It looks like I was dropped from the internet, but I'm back now. And absolutely, it's our partnership that really allows us and facilitates this capability and your engineering work. I think you guys don't give yourself enough credit for engineering some of the most performant solutions the industry's ever seen, frankly.
Yeah, I think the question I was trying to gauge on you earlier before you dropped and is that, hey, you know, people always say, wow, Intel, you have this TikTok solution where you come out with brand new processing technology, but does it really matter? And I tell the audience, it absolutely matters. In the design, when we design Azure Stack HCI, one of the first things that we look at and discuss with customer is compute. Compute in terms of core count, compute in terms of megahertz. Why? The more cores you have allows you to run more virtual machine in the Azure Stack environment. The higher megahertz allows you to run application like SQL more efficiently. So believe it or not, the refresh of art is actually very important in terms of design. Can you elaborate on this, the fact that as Intel continue to innovate in your microprocessing technology, how you guys balance between core and megahertz and all the other factors?
That's a great question. So one of the things we look at in a balanced platform is that it really has essentially 6 key architectures that we focus on. We focus on the compute architecture, obviously, but we also focus on the caching and NVMe layer, so the memory layer, and then we do focus on that high-performance storage, and we do have 3D NAND technology as well. As you know, it's very difficult to get at this point in the marketplace, but we do have it, and it's part of our core portfolio for the bigger scale-out storage requirements. We also have invested heavily, and most people maybe don't realize that Intel's bought 45 networking companies over the last 2 decades to incorporate Ethernet optimizations into our platform. So we connect the performance of our CPU with our networking and virtualization. Again, optimized networking queue capability allows you to have optimized virtual machine capability. Persistent memory is the newest, essentially, technology that we've introduced to allow for persistent memory as well as block storage capability with a new high volume memory capability that allows us to scale, again, a single socket platform up to 12 terabytes. And then Thunderbolt, again, it's in its 3rd generation, but it allows you to move data between objects with that Thunderbolt interface. If you take a look at what we've done, we have standard interfaces to allow for a very robust ecosystem in the CPU, standard interfaces for 3D XPoint and Optane, standard interfaces for NVMe. In fact, Jim Pappas is vice chairman of SNIA and has been driving NVMe and persistent memory through the Storage and Networking Industry Association now for almost 15 years. And we continue to drive those standards across all these interfaces so that we know that our customers will have compatible products from the day it ships, and that they will scale, and they're serviceable. And Howard, that's a big part of what you and I talk about is the serviceability of technologies. It's not just that you're leading in performance and innovation, but it's that you're also serviceable. And then finally, we try to bring our security from an end-to-end systems architecture perspective. So everything from platform firmware resilience to Intel Trusted Execution Technology to in the current generation platforms, introducing capabilities around total memory encryption to help us in, again, improving the virtualization performance. And in a hyper-converged environment, virtualization and container performance really is a key metric that we're striving for as a company. And you can almost think of it as virtual machines per square inch, per watt, per terabyte. And when you start to put that formula together, you start to realize, boy, if I can deploy my VMs with that level of efficiency, I can deploy more VMs per node, and the more VMs per node, the more TCO that I receive and the more benefit that I give to my users.
Yeah, that's exactly the point, right? Innovation of technologies, they're all related to each other. And as I said earlier, is that it's not just saying CPU, it's not just saying compute, it's the entire building block across the board, making sure that these technology that you described, security, memory technology, are all integrated seamlessly, harmoniously, properly to deliver the best solution for a specific workload. And that gets the topic of Intel Select Solution. You introduced me to the Intel Select Solution about 3 years ago when Intel really taken the role of saying, hey, in addition to give technology, we need to help our partners like DataON to set configuration that we believe are optimized for specific workload. And more importantly, we want to take that role as a leading role to predefine, to test, to validate, to provide benchmark, to make sure that this particular design workload is optimal for specific applications, right? And that was important to DataON because in addition to what we do, we look to Intel to take that role of really validation and really tell the audience, hey, enterprise customer, Intel also has a piece in this skin in the game to make sure that the solution that we recommend and design are validated for the solution. Can you tell us a little bit about the Select solution that maybe some of the audience doesn't know about?
Well, I'd be happy to, Howard. You know, you are, I like to say you're a leading advocate of Select Solutions, but Select Solutions is really a genesis of work that Allison Klein, Ralph Biesmeyer, and a team of really talented professionals led by Patty Jordan, Schaffner. We created this brand 3 years ago, and it became very apparent to our leading customers like DataON that the CPU wasn't enough. I remember our first conversation. Jake, yes, we have the CPU. We're an Intel shop top to bottom, but you know, there's other parts of the server that we really need you to lean in on and help us make sure we have optimized solutions. Well, when our customers say that to us, and our partners, in this particular case, Microsoft says this to us, it makes us rethink our business model. At the time, our new executive vice president, Naveen Shenoy, was really wanting to move beyond the idea that in the data center, all Intel was a CPU company. He's very much focused on introducing a data platform group, which we are now called, and it took time. Select Solutions is part of that transformation as a business unit to become a platform group that's not just focused on central processing units, but it's focused on the role that central processing units play in managing and working with memory, storage, networking, and accelerators. We've acquired companies along the way, but we haven't really gone away from the core of what you asked us to do, Howard, here. And that's ensure that we can verify solutions by multiple engineering engagements over a significant period of time, so that even before we get to our engagement with you, I might have told you about the work we're doing, but I won't let you see it for 6 months so that we can hand you all of the pre-validated engineering. You then go validate our engineering to ensure that the engineering that we provided you actually meets the specifications and doesn't actually harm the customer. And this is a big part of what you do that people don't give you credit for. Everybody says, well, Intel just hands over products to you. No, we don't. We hand over a platform to you, a base platform. You then build the differentiated innovation such as Kepler. Okay, so that communication, as you know, and most of the folks on the line don't know, this communications happens over months. So as you guys start to develop your software development platforms to determine what your final configurations are going to be, we're exchanging information almost weekly, Howard. I mean, I don't want to be, you know, it's not daily, but it's pretty close. And you're saying, well, you know, I would go with this memory configuration, but I don't think I get the performance. So we have to go to this memory configuration to get the performance. If I put this networking in with this driver, I get performance A. If I put this networking in with this driver, I get performance B. Where do we want to go? I mean, these are conversations around serviceability, around supply chain integrity. We have these conversations on a regular basis so that by the time we get to a select solution, we've validated, we've checked the supply chain, we've ensured that we can deliver for customers so that we can begin to have the conversation about a performance expectation. And that's the other thing that DataON has been a leader in. Not only have you been a leader in developing a data center base model for your customers, you actually have a plus configuration which has our platinum SKUs, which has our highest end performance. Yes, it's a little more expensive, and it may not deliver the same TCO because of it has so many cores, and some of the licensing is slightly more expensive, but it does deliver the performance. And as licensing changes, and we all know licensing changes from year to year, we believe this will be really well positioned. And Howard, I think you have some insight there as well. We think it's not only well positioned today, but it even gets more competitive into the future.
Absolutely. There's so many anecdotes I could talk about. In the beginning of the day 2 years ago, when you guys first looked at Azure Stack HCI, we knew the technology well, and we really partnered with your team to look at the Azure Stack software-defined piece of it to make sure that we share our knowledge with you guys to build the right select solution. And it was really a collaborative effort. I was seeing at a nightly basis trying to say, hey, which is the designs correct? Why do you use this criteria? Then we provide the data to validate to you guys to make sure that is the right solution. So it's absolutely a collaborative effort from that point of view. And we're talking about SQL, right? SQL is something that we worked on for select solution, and you guys were able to help us to understand what is the right design using persistent memory, using Optane for SQL. So really, I do believe the fact that having the ability to take the technology and to bring it to reality with number to back it up in the real workload is what our customers are looking for. And select solution is definitely one of these kind of solutions that we use to show our customer why a lot of innovation happens, and we do a lot of validation testing before telling the customer what it is. Great. So as we continue, and many customers know that we take the solution and we try to make sure we architect to the way that fits our customers' needs. And based on the Azure Stack HCI design, DataON actually introduced multiple types of designs. One of the unique designs that we actually introduced and really help innovate and be the pioneer of is really the Kepler 2-node solution. A Kepler 2-node solution really is 2 server node switchless. You connect them back to back, and the ability to deploy this solution for small medium enterprises, robo, at the edge on even IoT. You can imagine the simplicity of this solution and how easy to set it up, right? Having 2 nodes, whether or not it's a 1U rack, a 2U rack, an all-flash rack, the ability to have 2 nodes and really run your entire workload application on the edge and robo and still have enterprise-level resiliency. With Microsoft, more importantly, Microsoft is the first to tell the world, hey, in addition to a 2-node switchless, we also support a 3-node switchless design. Why is that good? It's the ability to scale, the ability to grow your architecture seamlessly without adding another layer right away, right? Without a switch layer, you could connect 3 nodes together, improve your compute, improve your capacity for memory, your storage, everything else, but really easily, seamlessly grow your architecture and having a 3-node solution. At the same time, as we talk about 3-node solution, we also try to provide different form factors. One form factor that I think Jake was alluded to was the ability to deliver a workstation-like form factor that's easily situated in your office, in a retail shop, in a different environment where maybe you don't have a rack. Right? So Kepler 47 G2 is a new product we launched. We actually have a really cool video that Storage Review did for us to showcase what is this technology. How can we take a software-defined technology called Azure Stack HCI and bring it to a level that is enterprise-level performance but affordable, right? That's the word. You can scale a solution from a 2-node to 16-node. You can also scale a form factor from a workstation to a 4U rack, right? Regardless of the type of architecture or solution, software-defined storage from Azure Stack HCI allows you to do that. And the Kepler 47 Gen 2 really delivers that because he has a single socket, he supports memory, a DDR memory, he supports all-flash solution, up to 10 terabyte, or if you want to use a hybrid, you could get 48 terabytes. And really, a 2 single workstation, single socket, you could get over 250,000 IR performance. This is pretty incredible for a really small 2-node workstation solution. Any thoughts there, Jake, in our innovations?
Well, I don't think you talk enough about the fact that Storage Review reviewed as many solutions as they could out in the market, and they landed on DataON as the solution of the year. And I think one of the things, you're calling 250,000 IOPS performance. That's just the baseline, right? Depending on the configuration, we can drive IOPS north of several million. So I just think it's a super flexible architecture. It has the capability to scale to your edge requirements, but in many cases, those edge requirements look a lot more like regional data centers than they do like the traditional edge or chopped down device or lesser configured device. I really think this is part and parcel to a strategy that our software partner Microsoft has been embracing and endorsing, and I think that DataON has done a really good job to lead here. The work that we've done directly with customers is reflective of the innovation of the platform. And I think as you see expansion in the Azure Stack portfolio, this particular platform, the Kepler 47G2, is going to be well positioned for upgrades and sustainability in that new future.
Totally agree with you, and for those who wants to look at it, that there's definitely a video on Storage Review where Brian Beeler, who was also a audience or speaker in my previous webinar, did an unbox video. Take a look at it. It's pretty cool and kind of talk about technology. I like to do a quick transition to kind of customer. Right? As we talk about technology, form factor, scalability, how we integrate technology, it's also important to realize that this is being deployed real time into the world. And DataON have over 650 enterprise customer deployment in the HCI Microsoft solution today. And we have deployed across multiple verticals, right? Whether or not your education, banking, manufacturing, federal government, all these verticals are deploying Azure Stack HCI across the board. And it shows the fact that it has really become a mainstream technology as a great next generation technology, replacing your SAN and really leveraging the latest architecture available to help run your workloads. In addition to that, for the same technology, it's optimized for different workloads such as VDI, workloads such as SQL, workloads such as Edge, Kubernetes. All these are different workloads that you could optimize on a Microsoft Azure Stack HCI platform to run your specific application. So this is not just a vertical discussion. Really, it expands across application workload where we see all our customers using this particular platform for their daily workload applications.
And this is what's really exciting. It's the customer adoption, Howard. I mean, it's not just Bradley. We're going to talk about Bradley, and we're going to talk about the team there because they're fantastic, and we love working with them. But it is a host of customers across multiple verticals and more verticals added every day because it's a powerfully built and designed platform. It really is. And it's been rock solid, as we'll talk about Bradley here. And the time to deployment, which is time to money, has been really, really refreshing.
Yeah, so let's talk about a specific customer and specific deployment, which both of us had the pleasure of engaging last year at Ignite and talking to the customer. And for you guys, for the audience, you could definitely find the use case on our website. There's a video, there is a podcast available on Bradley. And Bradley is a customer that we engaged about 3 years ago. It's a law firm with 7 to 10 offices across the middle part of the United States. They made a decision to look at software-defined architecture, especially Microsoft, and they made that choice. And maybe Jake, having you talk to the Bradley team, maybe you could share on some of your takeaway as you talk to Bradley and why you believe they made that choice, especially with Intel SLED and Azure Stack HCI. Wow, maybe Jake, you can hear me? So I think Jake actually dropped again. There's some internet going on here today. So, with Bradley, I think there's a couple of takeaways that we want to share with you. In any organization, as you look at making a decision, there are two criteria. One is clearly technology, which we alluded to. But second is really budget. Every single IT organization has budget. In the case of Bradley, one of the key value propositions for their picking a solution is making sure the technology is correct, but also making sure that the budget they have is achieved. In the case for Bradley, they had a budget of $2 million for a primary data center, which is to use to build their storage, refresh their compute, and really building a state-of-the-art primary data center that allows them to run their workload for their key applications. In addition to that, they also had a budget for each office's site. They have 7 to 10 offices. Each office is running local applications, which ultimately will be synced up with the primary data center. And there, they're running small databases. They will have VMs running for virtual machines for their applications and domain controller, everything else. And their budget for that particular branch office site was $80,000. Having worked with Microsoft, Intel DataON to decide on the DataON Azure Stack HCI with Intel Optane solution as well, they were able to deliver everything they want and more under budget, right? For the primary data center, instead of $2 million, which they were budgeted, they spent a quarter of that amount, which is $500,000, to build out their primary data center. In the case of their branch offices where they have $80,000 budgeted, again, it's a quarter amount to 35%, where they spend, depending on the design, $25,000 to $50,000 each site. On the budget perspective, that is a huge value proposition for TCO, for the fact that a lot of times the CFO, the financial people, look at money return on investment, and this is a great way to measure the success of Bradley in terms of deploying the right solution at the right price point. Okay. We talked about budget, but we also want to talk about performance. In terms of performance, I think there's definitely some specific data point that Bradley able to share in terms of the performance improvement they saw with the new technology from Microsoft Azure Stack HCI. Some of the key points that they brought up is, number one, is average I/O latency. They were able to reduce the latency to less than 1 millisecond with the new technology, especially with NVMe cache, RDMA 40 gig, 100 gig technology. Latency is a key criteria to make sure the response of the application is proper for their workloads. Second, SQL. SQL backup, data backup is very important because every day they do a SQL backup of their data, all the law firm application, all the legal applications. They were able to reduce their backup time for SQL from 4 hours to less than 1 hour with a new solution developed by DataON and Microsoft Azure Stack HCI. Another great data point. The third one is VDI. Clearly VDI and ability to deploy VDI across their infrastructure is important. How to make sure that the experience of their users are properly judged, making sure they're not waiting to log in, waiting for them to run their application. They were able to reduce the VDI login time to less than 30 seconds. These are very powerful data points to show how a technology could be built to not only deliver performance, increase productivity, but still come under budget. So these are great. This is why we really love the solution as a data point to show how this application and what we're seeing is being applied to all our customers as they make that decision to choose Azure Stack HCI. Hey, Jake, are you back yet?
Yeah, I'm back, Howard, and I do apologize. It's causing me grief here. Not quite the network I'm used to, but you know, this is really, to me, the real value of what we've done is the time to money. For Bradley, it resulted in the ability to deploy into more regional offices, and it all, not only the performance and response, but you know, this is how we are able to deliver TCO resources, and as our customers are able to deliver TCO returns their business shareholders.
Hey, we actually have a question. This is actually a really good question from the audience, and I want to make sure I address it. The question from the audience, you know, I talked about Bradley able to reduce the budget for primary data center from $2 million to $500,000, which is a quarter for primary data center, and for a budget for each office is $80K to $25K. The audience asked, you talk about $2 million budget. What was it that we spec out for $2 million that we deliver for a quarter that? Was it on-premise server, or was it cloud services or hardware? It's a great question. To answer you, the solution we built for the primary data center was a all-flash 6-node solution based on the Intel architecture. It's a 2U 24-bay form factor, 100 gig RDMA Mellanox internet. I think it was 16-core, high-core CPU count Go processor, about 512, half a terabyte of memory, or even more. I think it's populated all the way to one terabyte of memory per server node, and running Optane SSD as cache, running Intel P4510 NVMe, 8 terabyte for each NVMe, fully populated up to 24 of them, right, across the board. So you could calculate the raw capacity, 24 times 8, that's 190 times 6 divided by 3. So you're looking at raw capacity about 200 to 300 terabytes of raw capacity, of usable capacity for three-way mirror for this solution. So you're looking at a Lamborghini where you have all-flash solution, NVMe, Optane, 100 gig, running Azure Stack HCI for what we did, right? So this is kind of the solution we built. And this is a great question, because a lot of time when we say hybrid cloud, we want the customer to choose between on-premise and the cloud. But you can't do that because it's hybrid. So what Bradley has also done is, in addition to building the on-premise infrastructure, because a lot of the data they want to keep on-premise, but they also leverage Azure services for some of the site recovery. They will build some VM, and they will use Azure site recovery for the VM replication to make sure if something bad happens, the VM runs on Azure as a result of it, and some Azure backup. So you could tell that for this customer, they really address everything across board, both for cloud, on-premise, and the hardware.
Yeah, and it just really facilitates, the budget savings really facilitates more deployments and faster deployments. Also, the one thing I do want to say is that the team that at Bradley who was able to deploy at this kind of savings, when they went for their next budget numbers, their budgets were typically approved. So it's kind of one of those things that builds on itself. So it was really exciting for them.
And the takeaway is, it wasn't a hard drive, it wasn't a spinning disk, it was an all-flash solution, which is pretty incredible. So the lesson learned, right? I want to make sure that when we talk to Bradley, what the key lessons that they take away from the discussion, so all the audience and our customers understand. Number one is, clearly I spoke earlier on the design, right? I think they made a choice. We don't want to have spinning disk for our primary production workload. We want to use SSD. In this case, NVMe SSD, because NVMe is the latest technology, because Microsoft supports it, because you get the best performance latency, and because, thanks to Intel, the price point of NVMe SSD has come down so much because of manufacturing efficiency and the ability to drive adoption is almost at par with SATA SSD, and even at a better price point than your traditional SAS SSD. So why not? Why not NVMe? And you don't have to worry about breaking disk. So that's number one, using all flash. Second is, consider using 2 small clusters instead of 1 large cluster, and to increase resiliency and redundancy. This is important. One of the key features for Microsoft Azure Stack HCI is the ability to provide resiliency in a cluster. In a 4-node cluster, you could have simultaneously 2 server failure or 2 media failure. Your entire cluster is still operational, right? That means you have 3 copies of the data across your cluster, so you have 2 different servers that go down. So that's the level of resiliency it allows you. But you could grow this cluster from a 4-node to a 16-node, but a customer chose not to do a 16-node cluster. They decided to do a 2 5-node cluster or 2 3-node cluster and use the technology of cluster set, which is new in 2019, allows you to bridge both clusters under the same namespace, which allows you to have multi-level resiliency in both clusters doubling the level of availability you have. That's a great design that they chose because the technology was available for Microsoft. Lastly, using nested resiliency. You could have a lot of customer and technology vendors say, we can scale to 16 nodes, but can you scale down with the same level of technology to a 2-node solution, which I believe only Microsoft could do today. Using 2 nodes, 2 copy switchless, which is our Kepler 2 nodes design, you could maintain performance, but still have the ability to have 2 copies and have a server that goes down to allow you to have redundancy. But with 2019, Microsoft introduced the concept of nested resiliency, right, which allows you to have essentially 4-way mirror or a mirror plus 2 parity, which says in that configuration, you could have a server that goes down in a 2-node configuration plus another disk that goes down on the other server. Your entire cluster with the core and witness stays up, and your application continue to run. So those are all innovations that Bradley took to heart and really designed with DataON with Intel into their architecture to ensure they have the best deployment for their workloads. Okay. And there's definitely a lot of information for you guys to look at. The video that we did at Ignite, the podcast I think Jake, you and Alan did, which was awesome. I listened to a couple of times already, talks about the experience.
Yep.
All these are available for our audience to review as they go through it. Okay, so I think for me it's really talking about the emergence of technology, but technology applied to real-world application, technology applied to real-world scenarios. And Bradley really is a great use case that says, hey, these are real customer and real people that allows you to do it. Okay. Wait, we have a second question. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. But I think that's kind of the biggest thing that we have focused on, Howard. From day one, we really focused on things we could today and that could solve customer problems today. And Bradley's a really good example. Your customer list wasn't this big ago when we began this effort, and I think customers are taking advantage of it. I want to ask this question. I think you said you have 650 Azure Stack HCI customers. Did you migrate them to Azure Stack, or did they migrate themselves? If so, what are you recommending for migration? And how much downtime you experienced during migration cutover? Outstanding question.
Yeah, great question. And let me clarify my words because I want to always be honest with my customer. DataON has over 650 Microsoft software-defined technology customers that started from 2012, which is when Microsoft first introduced software-defined storage spaces, to 2016, which is called Storage Spaces Direct, to 2019, which is called now Azure Stack HCI. For specific Azure Stack HCI customers, I think we should probably have half of that, but half of them are moving from storage spaces to there. But we do have over 650 Microsoft software-defined customers based on the same stack with the different evolutions. So that's not number one. Number two, did you migrate them for Azure Stack HCI? Did they migrate themselves? Great questions. One of the value of DataON is we are really white glove. What that means is we really take pride in working closely with customer to deploy their solution. When we architect the Azure Stack HCI solution, we actually do the entire POC in-house with your design, your system, and run an entire benchmark. Once that's complete, we'll ship the complete system with the IP in place, with everything loaded with window licenses, and when you get it, essentially you could put in the window license and the infrastructure should be up. If you want to take it apart and do it again, DataON is right there with you, remote in, and help you do that specifically. So that's kind of what we do. But how do we do the migrations, and do we do it? I think a great one I want to use is the next page. It's kind of timely. Whoever sent this email either knows my slides or really want to ask this question. In many times, if you are a existing Hyper-V customer with data, you can have multiple ways of migrating. There's many tools out there that Microsoft offers for you to migrate the Hyper-V VM from your current SAN infrastructure to a hyper-converged infrastructure. we could provide you the link. It's something that you could do yourself. Or if you want DataON to help you, we also have that professional services as well. If you are a VMware customer with a ESX VM, then you have to convert your ESX VM to Hyper-V VM. That takes another technology. There's technologies such as a conversion from Microsoft. You have, I think, 5-9 network that does that. But in the case, which the slide tells, for one of the real large Texas SLED customer that we are just completed, we actually done the entire hardware refresh. What we did is, number one, we designed a Azure Stack HCI for primary data center, which was an existing SAN. It was a fiber channel SAN. It was 8 gigabyte fiber channel. It had an iSCSI, another iSCSI environment, and they also want to build a DR, but they are a VMware ESX shop. What we did is, number one, we refreshed the entire infrastructure into a SAN. We put it into the infrastructure. Then we use Veeam as a migration tool to convert VMware ESX VM into Hyper-V VMs and convert those VMs into Hyper-V and move it into the new HCI production cluster. After we do that, we do the test, then we do the cutover process. At the same time, we also build a DR site for the customer that's about 150 miles away, right? The DR site shows you how you can have a DR site, which in this case, it's a hybrid design of 3 tiers that allows you to cut over your workload into DR and pull it back up. So if something does happen, like a hurricane, natural disaster, your DR site could come back up and really become operational right away. In the primary data center, we actually split the workload into an all-flash workload and also a hybrid workload. And also, we designed 2 Veeam on-premise repository, both on the primary data center and the DR data center, so you have live replication of your data and VM across the board. So to answer your question, we actually does the migration for the customer, but there's so many tools out there that you can use the migration. Storage Replica is a great migration tool from Microsoft, right? And the average downtime during the migration and cutover is actually not that much because you're not doing the whole thing at one time. You can move a VM, a workload at a time, and that's the best practice you have to do as a customer to make sure you manage your migration properly so you can maintain risk. So happy to have that discussion afterwards. Send us an email. We're happy to go through that entire process to help you with that migration system. Hey, Jake, I think we're going towards the end of our discussion. I think there was a lot of great topic that we discussed, and I think this is actually the first time that the customer asked such a great detailed question, which I really enjoy answering. Anything to share with our audience as we wrap this up?
Well, a couple of things. The innovations that we're delivering today have a roadmap. As the previous generation had a roadmap, this generation, we have a roadmap to next generation. And because of our relationship and our tight integration, we can get 2 to 3 generations of capabilities for them to scale their business. And customers right now are having to rethink their infrastructure investments, and they're having to look making VDI investments that maybe they thought they could have held off for a couple of years. We're building those solutions and those capabilities, and we're building what we believe to be the industry's best performing solutions together. So for us to continue to look to us, and on Twitter, reach out to us directly. We try to be as transparent and open as possible.
Absolutely, and thank you for your continued support, Jake. Intel, you're the big guy in the technology industry, help drive technology innovation, and we appreciate that you continue to partner with DataON and help us be successful in the industry.
Well, there's one more question. One more question that came in from the audience, Howard. It was more of a comment, and I just want to thank the comment. They say, "Nice, simple, and elegant solution. Thanks for the reply." Hey, thank you guys for attending. We those kind of compliments. those are the kind of compliments that get you out of bed on a Sunday morning at 7 a.m. to make sure you're doing everything right to design the next platform. So thank you. Nothing can be done without customers. Nothing can be done without partners. Our industry is one where there's, as far as I know, there's never been a single person who's been able to patent, build, and distribute a technology in volume without the help of others. So it takes a village, and it takes each and every one of us building the best products to serve our customers best.
Thank you, Jake. Have a great day. Stay safe, stay healthy. I'm sure I'll be seeing you face-to-face soon, but while between that time, let's stay safe and stay healthy, okay?
And you do the same, Howard. It's always an honor to be with you here. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we wish the very best to our listeners.
Thank you. Have a great day.